A single court order has just dropped like a bombshell in India, igniting a massive controversy that's pitting neighbor against neighbor and public safety against animal welfare. So let's get right into it and unpack this huge decision about the country's millions of stray dogs.
And this is the line that started it all. Situation is grim. Make all localities free of stray dogs. On August 11, 2025, the Supreme Court of India didn't just make a suggestion, it issued a command. And that one sentence, well, it lit the fuse on this whole nationwide debate.
So first up, let's break down this shocking court order. To really get why there's such an uproar, you have to look past the headlines and get into the nitty-gritty of what the court is actually demanding. It's not just one command. It's a whole set of really strict, non-negotiable rules.
And I mean, the rules here are incredibly strict. Authorities in the Delhi area have just 8 weeks to round up all stray dogs. And get this key point, they're to be moved to shelters permanently. There's no releasing them back to the streets, which completely flips the script on a policy that's been in place for over 20 years. The court even put a stop to adoptions during this roundup and threatened stern action against anyone who tries to get in the way.
So, that's the order. But you're probably asking, why now and why something so drastic? To answer that, we've got to zoom out a bit. This didn't just come out of nowhere. It's a reaction to a public health problem that's been building for decades. Just let that number sink in for a second. 62 million. That's the estimated number of stray dogs in India. It is by far the largest population of stray dogs anywhere in the world. To put that in perspective, that's roughly one stray dog for every 23 people in the country. The scale of this is just mind-boggling.
And with a population that huge, there's a tragic human cost. Every single year in India, about 20,000 people die from rabies. Now, rabies is almost always fatal once the symptoms show up, but it's also almost entirely preventable. And the vast majority of these cases, they come from dog bite.
To see just how serious this is, look at it globally. Over a third, 36% of all rabies deaths in the entire world happen in India. It's a massive public health crisis, and it's being fueled by an incredible number of dog bites every year. Somewhere between 17 and 20 million. So how has India tried to deal with this until now? Well, this timeline gives you a quick look. It really started back in 1960 with the law that made it illegal to kill healthy animals. Then, in 2001, the official policy became CNVR, and we'll talk about what that is in a second. That policy was just reinforced in 2023. And now, bam, this 2025 order suddenly rips out the return part of that strategy, completely changing the game, at least for the Delhi region.
So what is this CNVR method that the court has basically tossed aside? It stands for catch-neuter-vaccinate-return. It's pretty much the global gold standard, backed by the World Health Organization. The idea is simple. You humanely control the population by sterilizing them, and you stop rabies by vaccinating them. Then, and this is the key part, you return them to their territory. Why? Because that prevents a vacuum from being created where new, unvaccinated dogs would just move right in.
And this brings us right to the heart of the matter. A nation divided. An order this extreme was always going to cause a major conflict. It has drawn a huge line in the sand, kicking off a tense national debate that pits two really important values against each other: immediate public safety versus animal welfare. The whole debate really boils down to two very different ways of looking at this. On one side, you have supporters saying this is finally about making streets safe, especially for kids and the elderly. They see it as forcing the government to get its act together. But on the other side, you have opponents calling it cruel and totally unscientific. They talk about the logistical nightmare of sheltering millions of dogs, and they warn that simply removing them creates that vacuum for new, unvaccinated animals to move right in. The backlash has gone all the way to the top. Here we have a quote from prominent political leader Rahul Gandhi, who calls the decision cruel and short-sighted. He's making the case that you don't have to choose one over the other, that public safety and animal welfare can and should work together. And it's not just local voices. Major international groups have jumped in too. PETA didn't mince words at all, labeling the order both inhumane and illegal. The illegal part likely refers to how this order might clash with India's own Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act. This phrase, policy by panic, really took off on social media, and you can see why.
It perfectly captures how critics feel. They see this not as a well-thought-out plan, but as a knee-jerk reaction, a policy born out of fear that ignores decades of scientific advice. So, after all the debate, the court order, and the public outcry, where do things go from here? What's next? This whole crisis has forced a national conversation that goes way beyond just rounding up dogs. Is there a better way forward?
You know, at the very core of this entire debate is a principle from India's own constitution. Article 51AG says it is a fundamental duty of every citizen to have compassion for living creatures. This adds a really deep moral dimension to all the legal and practical arguments we've been hearing.
So what is the alternative? Well, experts and activists argue the answer isn't removal. It's a smarter, four-part solution. First, you have to massively scale up the CNVR programs that are proven to work. Second, you tackle the root cause. Improve urban waste management to cut off the dog's main food source. Third and fourth, build better funded shelters and, this is so important, promote a real culture of responsible pet adoption. This isn't just a theory, it's a model that has helped countries like the Netherlands become virtually free of strays.
And so that's where we're left. It all comes down to this one huge question. Is the Supreme Court's order a harsh but necessary move to finally guarantee public safety, or is it a policy by panic that ignores a more compassionate, scientifically proven solution? The answer to that is going to define the relationship between 1.4 billion people and 62 million dogs for years to come.